is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of No Other Pod. I'm Jimmy, along with my good buddy Daniel Kooser. Dan, what's up, my friend?
Dude, not much. Another week, another loss. Life is good. It's just been just living, dude. Just living our best soccer life right now is the best we can do.
Yeah, we're recording this on Sunday, and it did get a little wild, at least on Saturday night, trying to watch all of the soccer that was happening, because apparently there was a weather delay in Utah because the KC Current were supposed to kick off in Utah about 30, 40 minutes before Sporting Kansas City, so we knew there was going to be a little bit of overlap, and then turns out they kicked off almost at the exact same time. So, was double screening it up, trying to pay attention to two games at the same time. I'm sure you were doing the same.
That's impossible, though. Like, you can't watch two games at the same time. You just
not effectively.
Obviously, your eyes can't. You're gonna miss shit. Like, you're gonna it looks like someone scored in this game. I should watch the replay. Like, you're just gonna catch the replay of everything. But I will tell you this: the winningest team in Kansas City goes on the TV. They get first crack.
Yep.
The team not doing so hot, I'm sorry, you get relegated to the laptop. It is what it is. You don't get the big screen. And also, the pitch KC Current was on looked a lot better than the pitch that Portland Timbers play on. Just, I don't know. Yeah. Did you notice any color differences? It looked more healthy, more green.
Well, the Timbers, I'm pretty sure it's artificial turf.
Okay, so it just looked
Portland. So it's just not ideal from the get-go. I mean, the Utah Royals.
Eric Palmy would agree.
Yes. The Utah Royals play at the same stadium that RSL plays at. So I was just there a couple weeks ago. And yeah, I mean, in terms of an actual stadium itself, it was fine. The field was fine. It was good. It was just the surrounding area that sucked. So, but yeah, it was a busy night. Not to mention all of the windstorms that were happening here. I don't know if you got any in Topeka, but there are trees down in the KC area. There was 85-mile-an-hour winds in Johnson County, Blue Springs, etc. So hopefully, if you're listening to this, you don't have any wind damage at your home and everyone's all good. But it was a wild night. So glad that we're able to at least talk about soccer, even though one of the teams that we cover here on KC Sports Network is a dumpster fire. So
we do our best, man. We do our best to stay positive. But, right now it's Sunday, May 26th, and we're bottom of the conference, and it's getting scary, dude. It's getting dire. And I don't know. I don't have the answers.
Yeah, it's we'll talk about everything that happened in Portland and the response to it and Peter's quotes after the game, etc. But there was a game earlier in the week that I almost forgot happened because of how annoyed I was by the Portland game, and that was Sporting Kansas City hosted FC Tulsa in the U.S. Open Cup match. This was the round of 16. Winner advances to the quarterfinals. And as you have mentioned on this podcast, this is probably Sporting Kansas City's only opportunity at a trophy this year. And so, you expect that when a team like FC Tulsa comes into Children's Mercy Park, that Sporting will be able to take care of business no matter what the lineup is. But also, just a couple weeks prior, Union Omaha had taken Sporting Kansas City to 120 minutes. So we get to this game, and the lineup is probably what we expect. This is not a first-choice lineup. There's a lot of young guys in there that, a few young guys at least, in Felipe Hernandez, Marino Shani, Steven Afrifa, and then obviously Jake Davis has been starting, but Pulskamp and Agata are in there, and that's not typically a starting lineup for this team. So how are you feeling?
That didn't catch my eye, because didn't Danny Rosero return this match?
He did return. He played a half of this match.
So that got me excited. I'm like, look at this man, been coming back from injury. He's been really good for our defense, been really good on set pieces in the attack. Mm-hmm. It was just nice to see him back in full form. And spoiler alert, he started again in Portland. So good to have him back on the field. But overall, man, we all know the result of this Tulsa game, 4-0. But that's how it should be. Mm-hmm. I mean, you should beat up on these lower level teams, even with with partial reserves in your lineup, right?
Right.
So I'm in, dude. Like, Felipe Hernandez should have gone off. Like, the man's quick. The man picks his passes and shots. I'm happy for him. And Afrifa getting the minutes he got, and Vermees had nothing but good things to say about Afrifa at the end of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And that this was probably the best we've seen him since preseason.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'm like, cool, man, let's get him into form.
Yeah, he said that you're 100% right. Afrifa, he fell out of form for a while, and they were trying to get him back, and this was his best game. He said Felipe Hernandez, potentially his best game he's seen in a long time, that he said, Felipe did not play well against Union Omaha. That was a bad game.
Yeah.
And this was a game where he just turned it around and sort of became the leader out there on the field. It was a fun game to watch. I mean, it was a Tuesday night.
Unless you were a Tulsa person.
Unless you're a Tulsa fan, yeah. But, I mean, it was a Tuesday night. There wasn't a ton of fans there. I think the announced attendance was something like 11,000, 12,000, which, again, Tulsa, it's the Open Cup. It's a weeknight. I get it. But, even if it's not MLS League play, it was fun for me to see Sporting Kansas City winning games and putting balls in the back of the net again. And it started with Felipe Hernandez on a set piece. And I thought this was going to be an own goal. They ultimately gave it to Felipe as a goal, probably because if it wouldn't have been touched, it was technically on frame. But he sends in a dangerous ball on a set piece. It gets deflected into the back of the net. Sporting KC goes up 1-0. And they kind of just never really looked back from there. You mentioned
what's wild?
Yeah, go for it.
Sorry, this whole game was like Eric Tommy threatened a lot as well. And I'm like, how did Eric Tommy not get at least one goal? Because he was blasting stuff, dude, like really testing the goalkeeper's hands.
Well, he was blasting stuff. Afrifa, he eventually found the score sheet, but he was blasting stuff off the crossbars, off the posts. He was inadvertently finding himself getting hit by teammates' shots. Like I felt real bad for him because he was in the right spot at the right time and he was getting shots off. He was just missing by inches, and he was, I think might have even been Tommy who fired a shot on and just happened to hit Afrifa right in the midsection. So, it took him.
No, it was Agata puts the header down.
Oh, that's what it was.
It hits the post, and Afrifa chests it down and hits it one time there, and
that's how he scored.
What is going, dude? Agata has been excellent at headers, except he's not, because they always hit the post, bro.
Yeah.
They're going like he's got it. He's aiming where he wants it to go, and it's gonna score, but then it doesn't.
Yeah.
He's a threat, but he's got to be the most unlucky threat I've ever seen in my life.
He's a threat. He's been a little out of form. I mean, he had a header at the end of the game of the Portland game. I assume he was trying to flick it on, and it almost looked like he was the defender, and he just headed it straight out of bounds at the very end of the game.
Right.
But yeah, no,
he hits crossbars all the time too.
He does hit crossbars all the time. I mean, if there was a table for crossbar challenge, like in-game crossbar challenge, Sporting Kansas City would be atop that table.
I'm convinced that they practice at training with larger goals. How is this man missing the mark?
Someone check the training goals and make sure they're not 6 inches bigger on all sides, because it feels like the amount of times this year that Sporting Kansas City has bounced one off the post or the crossbar. I mean, Tommy did it. Where he bounced it off the underside of the post last week. I mean,
I call it the underboob of the post. That's what it is. It's the underboob. Bounce it right off.
That works. And it's just so, but it was good to see Afrifa, even if it was off of a post. I mean, he chests it down well, takes one touch, puts it in the back of the net, and it was good. He made it 2-0, and you kind of knew once it was 2-0 that things were probably going to get out of hand a little bit. It didn't help that Tulsa got a red card. It was a second yellow immediately after the start of the second half, if I remember correctly. And
it happened so fast that I wasn't dialed in yet. I was like, what happened now?
Well, and I'm Peter said this, I'm going to say it too. Credit to the referee, I think, in that situation, because how many times do you see where somebody's sitting on a yellow, and especially if it's early in the second half or still relatively early in the game, and they commit another yellow-worthy foul, and the referee's like, I don't want to send them off yet, so I'm going to give them a warning. And you're like, yeah, but that's not really fair to the team that they fouled. Like, that was a second yellow offense. That should be a red card. Not that Sporting, not that Sporting needed assistance a ton versus Tulsa, but good for the ref for sticking to the rule book and saying, you know what, that's a second yellow, you're off.
That's the game. I wish more people would do it, like on delay and restarts, different stuff like that. It's very frustrating.
And Tulsa was doing that from the get-go. There should have been a yellow handed out for delaying restarts. They did it like 2 or 3 times, and Peter was like, what are we doing?
What are we doing? Dude, some interesting little tidbits here. Tulsa didn't have a single corner kick in this game. We had 8, and we got to see Felipe Hernandez on the end of almost all those corner kicks, I believe. I like his corners, too. I'm like,
good.
Man's dangerous. He whips in a good ball. He got that own goal off of a corner, right?
It was off of a set piece, but yeah.
Oh, okay. But it was out there, right?
It was out there, yeah.
By the corner, kind of. And dude, shots, we had 34 to their 3. Like, Tulsa, they just came out for, like, some cardio. Like, they didn't get to really play the game.
It was rough. 525 accurate passes for Sporting Kansas City to 142 accurate passes for Tulsa. 92% accuracy for Sporting, 69% nicely for Tulsa.
I gotta shout out their goalkeeper too, man. 10 saves. Like, that's just, everyone has a night against us sometimes, man. A goalkeeper just needs to come up big.
Well, and it is funny because if you look at their lineup on NLSSoc.com, he's the only one that has a photo because he spent a hot second with St. Louis City last year, so he's in sort of the MLS system. The rest of them are just the generic head forms.
A blank page, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was all from start to finish, essentially, just a complete domination by Sporting.
We needed this as a team, as fans, as podcasters here. Like, this was fun to see, to get back to a winning way, even if it wasn't really a first choice lineup. But it also, in a lot of ways, it was. I mean, Fontas in there, Leibold, Radia. I mean, this Jake Davis. A lot of these people are first choice lineups. So
yeah,
I can only assume we're going to get that first choice moving forward, man, because we're on to the quarterfinals. I'm pumped.
Yeah. Now we're on to the quarterfinals, which will be July 10th in Kansas City against FC Dallas. We're going to play FC Dallas twice in Kansas City in 4 days. So I assume Dallas is just not going to leave. They're going to come here.
Why would you?
And just chill in Kansas City in the heat of July. But yeah, July 10th, and it'll be 8 p.m. It's a Wednesday against FC Dallas. So
feels like a little, almost feels like a little, like, weekly recreational soccer tournament. It's like, okay, we'll play these guys Sunday. Don't leave the town. We're playing again on Wednesday.
Yep. And we also know that if Sporting Kansas City defeats FC Dallas, they have hosting priority for the winner of Atlanta United and Indy 11. So
don't we have hosting priority for the final?
I didn't see that. I don't know if I know that.
It goes all the freaking way. I think we first you guys just win 2 games and you're in the final.
Right. 2 home games.
I think we're hosting the final, but you think we would have talked about that already? I think so.
Yeah, I didn't see that, and I could check, but
the way the bracket looked, like we were on top all the way to the final, which the top team always hosts.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. Let me. I'll see if I can figure that out here. I do know that I can for 100% guarantee that we have hosting priority at least through the semifinal.
Correct.
So it would be nice to host. I mean, we hosted the U.S. Open Cup final here in 2017, and so that was great because it was a fun game where we got to see them defeat the New York Red Bulls and win a trophy. So
that was the year I moved away. I was like, man, I had to miss this match live. Horrible time.
Yeah, that's not fun.
Unfortunate.
But it was good. So yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out, and hopefully Sporting Kansas City can win the next couple of games and move on to the final. And now what is also interesting is that these last 3 rounds are all going to be streamed on MLS Season Pass for free. So you don't have to watch that on YouTube links that are behind emailed walls where you have to put your email in and then they get you a secret YouTube link. You can just throw it on via Apple TV. So
I love that.
Yeah.
Apple TV is it's changed the game.
It has. Yeah, it's good. I'm not seeing here. I'm trying to look. I'm not seeing here anything about final hosting priority.
Maybe it's a draw at the end.
Could be. It's the winner of Sporting and FC Dallas will host the semifinal round of the winner of Atlanta and Indy 11. And then the winner of Sacramento and Seattle will host the winner of LAFC and New Mexico United. So we'll see. But it's Good stuff.
Got to win first. We got to move. We got to do this. Dallas isn't exactly a bad team, so
yeah,
we'll have to see what happens there.
And Felipe got his second goal in that game. Marino Janice made it 4-0. This game probably could have ended 7 or 8-0. So, overall, a fun game to watch, even if it's a lower division team. Last time we didn't do a Holiday Distillery Toast of the Match for the Open Cup game because it was not a fun one. We did it for the MLS game, but since it's opposite this week and the MLS game kind of sucked and the Open Cup was great, I think we should give, what do you want to call it, a Holiday Distillery Toast of the Match? We can call it Match Week, Toast of the Match Week if you want.
I say Toast of the Match Week for these young guys stepping up.
Let's do it. Holiday Distillery, Toast of the Match Week. I got my coffee because it's Sunday. I got my Five Farms Irish Cream. Holiday Distillery, Toast of the Match Week. The young guys who went out there and helped lead Sporting Kansas City to a victory against FC Tulsa. Felipe Hernandez, Marino Shani, Steven Afrifa, even Jake Davis. Shout out to you. And it was hilarious to hear the crowd just scream shoot anytime Jake got the ball anywhere within 50 yards of the goal, because after his laser a couple of games ago, they were ready for him. But hey, shout out to you young guys. Holiday Distillery, Toast of the Match Day. Appreciate you.
You said I got my coffee because it's Sunday. And I'm like, what does that mean? What does that even mean? Only Sundays do I have coffee.
Well, I did try when I first moved to Kansas City. I was trying to go buy a 6-pack of beer on like a Sunday morning to watch some football. And it was like 11:15 or whatever. And I was like at a Walmart. And I put it down on the counter and I go to check out. And she goes, I can't sell that to you. It's before noon on a Sunday. And I laughed thinking she was doing a bit. And she was like, no, like by law, I can't sell it to you.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a law anymore, but my Los Angeles ass was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I think you could have gone
beer
to
in a church if they could. So
yeah. Could you have gone to a liquor store? Because they opened a little earlier.
Maybe. I don't know.
The grocery stores, man, it was proved for a little bit. Kansas was worse than Missouri. So
yeah.
Missouri, you could go buy a bottle of vodka at a grocery store. Kansas is like, yeah, we have beer, but it's like less alcohol content.
3-2.
Yeah. Very weird.
But hey, at least Sporting Kansas City, they got a win on Wednesday. We hoped it would translate to MLS League play, but alas, as we all know, it did not. But let's before we talk about that game, let's go ahead and take our break here, and then we'll be back to talk about MLS.
We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest-ranked Chiefs podcast network in 2022 and 2023. And don't forget about our daily Substack newsletter, the best written analysis you can find on the Chiefs straight to your inbox every day. kcsn.substack.com.
What is up? It's Tucker Franklin here to tell you about our friends at PXG. And as a golfer for years, I've been hearing PXG say nobody makes golf clubs like we do, period. And you know what? I got to say that they are right. I went in for a fitting and I got to see firsthand for myself. I went and swung the new PXG Black Ops driver, and it is a total game changer. You no longer have to sacrifice distance for forgiveness. That is absolutely huge. And no matter how good the tool is, getting fitted can take your game to a whole new level. And look, they'll even give you a dozen of golf balls for free just for going and doing it. It's the world-class team of PXG experts will analyze every aspect of your swing with every club and give you feedback in real time how to improve. I went in there, got set up with Alex. She looked at my swing, fixed a couple swing things, but ultimately using the technology of the PXG and the Black Ops driver helped exponentially increase my game, added 50 yards to my drive, added more consistency with my shots, less disparity. It was an absolutely huge game-changing experience. If you're thinking PXG's high-performance equipment is too expensive, their clubs often cost less than the so-called leading brands. Here's what you got to do. PXG made me a believer, and they'll do the same thing for every golfer in Kansas City. Visit pxg.com/KCSN Soccer to schedule your fitting at PXG Kansas City. That's 7517 West 119th Street in Overland Park. Get fitted for any club and you'll get a dozen golf balls for free. That's pxg.com/KCSN Soccer to schedule your fitting. pxg.com/KCSN Soccer. Limit 1 dozen golf balls per person. Promotion ends June 30th. Other terms and conditions may apply. See store for details.
What up? We're back. Oh, my friend, this was this weekend late night, 2 games back to back like that. It was fun, and I got home at like 9:45 from a tech rehearsal, so life was good. I missed like 5 minutes. It was awesome.
That actually worked out well for you then, because you probably would have been you would have missed basically the whole first half of the current game had you had not had a weather delay.
Pretty much. Yeah, I was keeping an eye on my phone. I'm not on stage the whole time or anything, but I'm able to look at my phone for shit.
You're not worried about missing your cue if you're sitting there like cursing out, Really Agata for heading a ball off the post, and suddenly you're like, shit, I'm supposed to be out there.
Fuck yeah, I'm worried. There's literally a part where I leave the stage, but then I'm supposed to have a line off stage, and I've missed it a couple times. I've missed it. Now we aren't in shows yet. We're just rehearsals, but it's still embarrassing. And like the guy out there who gives the lead line, he's like vamping and just improvising, trying to like, hey, maybe he'll have something to say about that. And I'm like, oh, God
getting
damn.
louder.
Yeah, it's just it's very bad, and it looks, I don't know, feels shitty.
Hey, I'm sure worse things have happened to people. So get it all out in the rehearsal now.
I mean, dude, way back when I was, I had a little family. I was part of a family in a musical, and the little kid threw up on stage. And there was an audience, and bro, it was crazy. I'm very good friends with this kid's mom too. Like we had a relationship on stage, and she looked at my face, and I was just like,
and then I threw up, and then she threw up, and we all just slip and sliding across stage.
It was so bad. Needless to say, the scene change took a little longer because people had to break out the mops.
Oh my God.
It was nuts.
Was it like pretty evident that this was not at all part of the play? Like it was.
Oh yeah, dude. People in the front row just did this. Like just slowly cut, like holding their face, like, oh my gosh, that poor kid.
They didn't know they were in the splash zone.
Oh God, I'm gonna throw up. Shut the fuck up. What a time. That was like 15 years ago.
You know what made me want to throw up was watching the Sporting KC versus Portland game.
Bro, hey, if you ain't first, you're last. And we are last, my friend.
We are. For sure. Absolutely last. Although technically we have a game in hand on San Jose, who's also last. But
and I don't want to say like, how bad it is to be like, well, at least we're not New England. And it's like, don't say that.
We don't want to be that
real
team
bad.
Yeah.
No.
It's just, I mean, this
Chicago.
Right. The unfortunate, I had a bad feeling about this game. I'm not going to lie going into it.
Why is that? We gave up a 3-goal lead to them at home?
Well, there was that. But I don't know. There just was all this talk about Portland leading into this match about how Phil Neville is on the hot seat and might get fired, even though it's his first season as Timbers coach, and how Portland is the first team in MLS history to allow multiple goals in 10 consecutive league games, and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, you know what? All of that's going to break against Sporting Kansas City. I just had a feeling. I was like, we're not going to be able to score. They're going to win. We're not going to be able to do anything. Like, it's just, there is something about this team as it stands currently that is fundamentally not working. And, you can point to the attack and you can say, well, we generated, according to FOTMob, I think it was 0.28 XG against one of the worst defenses in the entire MLS. You can point to defensive mistakes in games past that have cost us. You can point to, Eric Tommy went out early with an injury and that really sort of sidetracks whatever, but this team just cannot get it together as things stand right now. And fans, understandably, are getting more and more and more frustrated. And I don't know what Peter should or could say or whatever, but after the game, and we'll talk about the game, but I'm on the press conferences. I typically send out quotes or whatnot, and I try to pick ones that are the most impactful or meaningful or whatever. And Peter was asked his thoughts on the match, and the first thing he said is, I thought we did a pretty good job away from home. I need to see the 2 goals a little bit more. I haven't had a chance to look at them, but I think we were good on the ball. I think we created some good stuff. Obviously, we got back into the game. I think giving up the second goal late killed us. And then he talked about trying to move some guys, get fresh legs, etc. How they did a good job of defending, but I thought we actually played okay, is what he said. And as you can imagine, that did not go over well with the Sporting KC fans that were following along with my tweets.
Just go ahead and clip that statement, and I'd like to put it up against something he says in August when this shit's still going down. You know what I mean? Like let's fast forward 3 months and see if we're still losing games and see how he's feeling then. Because this positive attitude stuff right now, it feels weird to me. As a coach, I'm like, you can't be negative. You can't berate your players. Team morale is a huge thing. It's just like leading a team at work, right? But like, this is different, man. He just doesn't seem worried at all. And I'm like, okay, if he's the captain of the ship, like, should I not be worried? Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, it seems like he's sort of gone to like one extreme or the other this year in his press conferences. The majority of his press conferences have been, I thought we played okay. We're getting better. I'm not worried about it. You're worried about it, etc. And then there's
no worried. You're worried.
And then there's been at least one that we are all aware of where there will be some suffering and
the mentality day
and the mentality day. Yeah, the mentality day. M-Day.
We'll call that the mentality game. Like that just goes down in history there.
And there hasn't been a lot in between. And I think what's hard as a fan of this team is you see that this team is not getting better in league play. They are not improving. They have lost 5 straight games now in league play, I believe. They have not won a game since March. It is almost June. And if you look at where we are through 14 games this year compared to last year, in 2023 through 14 games, Sporting Kansas City had 10 points, 2 wins, 8 losses, 4 draws. Good enough for 10 points. Like I said, through 14 games this year, 2 wins, 7 losses, 5 draws for 11 points. So we've improved by 1 point.
Look at that.
10% improvement.
That's right. We're crushing.
That's how if you were going to apply for a new job and put it on your resume, the way you spend that is 10% year-over-year improvement in efficiency and success.
So I probably get a raise.
But I mean, it just, again, and we've talked about this to death, so not to belabor it again, but at this point last year, felt like things were on the upswing. You had 3 points through first 10 games, and then you got 7 points over the next 4 games. You beat Seattle on the road. You beat Minnesota. Sure, they would have just gotten shellacked by St. Louis 4-0 on the road. But even that game, if you think back to it, Tim Melia wasn't playing. You had Kendall McIntosh in goal. There were a number of injuries. And if you looked at the XG of that game, 4-0 wasn't an accurate representation of how close that game actually was. And they ended up going on and defeating Portland at home the next week. If you look at what's happening this year, Sporting are continuously outperforming their XG to a point that seems unsustainable. You're having people like Memo and Tommy banging goals from distance that they have no business scoring consistently. You're not getting chances in the box. There aren't tons of injuries to blame. Things are going in the wrong direction.
There might be injuries to blame soon, man. You've taken out someone like Eric Tommy. God, I'm worried about that.
Right, because Eric Tommy is really the only reason that we've had any sort of attacking success, it would seem, over the last handful of games in MLS League play.
The dude has that spark. Like, when he goes forward, it's like, let's go, follow me.
Mm-hmm. It's very concerning because, if you look at the lineup that was out against Portland, this is arguably, save, Memo for Remy Voltaire, and even then, some people might say the way Memo's been playing, he's earned that spot. It's essentially the best 11 that we got. I mean, this is the team. And, it was a little stale, I would say, for the first 15, 20 minutes on either side. No one team really was doing a ton more than the other. And, then Tommy gets hurt, grabbed a hamstring in the 18th minute. Felipe Hernandez comes in. I'm very concerned about Tommy's hamstring. This is not the first hamstring injury we've had this year.
Dude, hamstring injuries are bad.
Mm-hmm.
They're if you don't truly let them rest and recover and you re-injure them, dude, it's it ends careers sometimes, man. It's never, when I pull my hamstring, it's still bad. There's still something going on.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure Zeus was dealing with a hamstring for a ton of the last couple of years, sure. and we saw how much that kept him out. And ultimately, injuries were the reason that he lost his starting job.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say that Eric Tommy's going to lose his starting job, but I also do know that Eric Tommy's out of contract at the end of this year. Wow. So you'd hate to see
something to hear.
This to be, sort of the way that his time in Sporting Kansas City ends. And I haven't heard anything. I'm not saying it as just, I'm just thinking about if I'm Eric Tommy. I mean, his wife just had a kid here. Maybe they love it in Kansas City. I don't know. But if I'm Eric Tommy, I'm around 30 years old or so. Do I want to continue to play for an MLS team that doesn't really have any clear direction toward competitiveness or a trophy, or do I want to go play somewhere else? I don't know. It's just
even within the league, dude, someone would snatch him up interleague real fast.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've seen that happen when Ilie Sanchez's contract was up and we didn't want to pay him what he wanted. And, I think there were legitimate reasons for the decision Sporting made, but LAFC scooped him up and he's gone on to have a fantastic MLS Cup winning career with LAFC.
Yeah, but he didn't weigh that decision because, let's be honest, rent prices out there, brother, compared to back here, maybe LAFC paid you what you wanted, but does it really even out at the end of the day?
Yeah, true, but he won an MLS Cup out there, so we probably will take it compared to, what's a real bummer, because, when Ilie left, he was here from 2017 to 2021, so, 4 or 5 years. He made 144 appearances for Sporting Kansas City. He's about halfway there with LAFC. He's made 71 appearances now, but I will always think of Ilie as a Sporting Kansas City player. But it makes you kind of wonder, just like the general MLS fan, considering that Ilie scored, was it a penalty kick that he scored, I think, in an MLS Cup final when it went there? I don't remember exactly what happened, but he's played very well for LAFC. A lot of casual fans might think of Ilie Sanchez as an LAFC player first when they think of him back on history, and that's kind of a bummer to me.
It is a bummer.
In Kansas City. But back to Portland. I mean, Tommy goes out, first half ends 0-0, kind of a nothing half in terms of what happened. And then second half starts, and, within 6 minutes, Sporting Kansas City kind of gives the ball away, and then Felipe Mora just ends up finding the ball, off of an Evander cross, point blank from a foot in front of goal. That's probably the highest XG shot that you can possibly have, a wide open net, foot in front of goal. You just got to tap it in with his head. And it's 1-0. And I knew at the second they scored 1-0, I was like, well, this team's not built for a comeback. That's probably it. That sucks. So it's just, I mean, if it's not one thing with this team, it's another. And it's frustrating. And it's all well and good that Memo, 10 minutes later, had a banger of a goal that he probably had no business scoring to equalize it and give us all a little bit of hope. But then, it's unsurprising that, in the 79th minute then, Evander puts Portland ahead, and at first an offside flag came up, and then you look at the replay and it was pretty clearly not offside, and that was that. That was all she wrote. Johnny had a chance at the end of the game. Couldn't quite do it. Agata couldn't quite do it. Sporting just isn't able to get attacking chances.
Yeah, it feels very... I mean, dude, I think in the highlights, it really does jump from very early in the game to almost halftime, because there really was nothing going on, which made it good if you were trying to watch one of the most electrifying teams in NWSL. It's quite the trade-off. But, dude, things don't get easier from here. For one, I think they're struggling, gonna have good attendance on Wednesday. For a Wednesday night game, a decent Vancouver team coming to town, and then you got to go to a really good Minnesota team over the weekend. This is not a great week. I have no high hopes for this.
Yeah. Well, first off, the big draw Wednesday isn't Sporting Kansas City versus Vancouver.
Oh, isn't it?
The big draw Wednesday is going to be Sporting Blue versus Sporting Argyle, the media game that's happening at halftime that yours truly is playing in, in the traditional, 17 versus 17 sided game. So
that'll be great. That'll be great.
One defender, 2 midfielders, and 14 forwards.
Well, don't hurt yourself. That's always the goal here with these little media games. It's come on, it's 12 minutes probably, 10 minutes. Just don't get hurt.
Don't hurt. Well, last year when we played, Thad Bell and I from Thad from Casey Soccer Journal and I w- attempted to play some defense, and what didn't, not a lot of defense is played in those games. Thad's not playing this year, so I'm sitting here and I'm like, am I really going to be the only person by myself trying to be a defender, or am I just going to do what everybody else does? None of it. You know what? I'm just going to go glory hunt and just see if I can just steal a goal somewhere. And you know what? Might as well do that.
A lot of people come out of the woodwork and just go dribble forward. There's no passing, there's no teammates. It's freaking chaos. So again, you're over 30, buddy. Don't get hurt.
I'll be doing some stretching. I am glad. I assume since they put me on the Sporting Argyle team, that means I'll be in the new shirt. So that's good. I haven't bought the new shirt yet. So
there you
I'll
go.
do that. And I did this year. I put on the back instead of my name, it'll say no other pod. So
Shit.
So we'll see if somehow this will be an exclusive for our listeners to look for. If somehow, by some miracle, which won't happen, but by some miracle, I do end up scoring a goal, I was going to take the shirt off and do the Lionel Messi hold up the jersey with no other pod toward the camera. So
listen, you don't sell yourself short. Anyone can score, man.
Yeah.
There's I don't think they're really calling offsides. You can go and do the old rules. I mean, if you want to go do the Sperry poach is what I call it. I mean, you can you can do that.
So if by some miracle it happens, the shirt's coming off and I'm holding it up for everybody to see, no other pod on the back of it. So
I love that. You're very brave.
Or maybe depends on I'll probably be wearing an undershirt.
Or not, dude. Just come on, let it out, dude. The sun will be down, so you won't be blinding nobody.
I won't be blinding anybody. I've been doing some running, so we'll see.
There you go. Yeah, dude. Let's get the nips out there.
I don't know which direction. Are you going to be at the game or are you going to be at rehearsal?
I won't, man. It's Tech Week, brother.
So I was going to say that was my other option, is if we're going in the direction by your seats, I was going to run into the stands and find you and Marissa and celebrate.
That's fantastic. We just do a jersey swap real fast.
But yeah, I mean, it sucks because Eric Tommy's probably not going to be available for either of these games. I mean, we don't know for sure. We haven't heard anything official, but it's I'm gonna go out on a limb and guess that he's not going to be available.
Yeah, don't force that at all.
And so that's a bummer. I believe we're going to be without Memo Rodriguez for yellow card accumulation.
Yeah.
So that's a bummer on Wednesday. So now we're looking at Radaya, Felipe Hernandez, and then I guess this is another Alan Polito drops to the number 10 and Willie got to play striker situation because we don't have another number 10. And Peter even mentioned, he goes, I think, when Felipe Hernandez came on, he did a good job, but he's more of an 8. He's not an attacking guy. Tommy's more of an attacking guy in that position. And I asked him about that for clarity. I would say, okay, you said Portland did a pretty good job around the box, and it sounds like when Tommy went out, you thought that was a pretty big deal too. So was that really the main issue as to why Sporting couldn't create chances, or did Portland do something in particular? And he goes, I'll say it again, Memo is not an attacking midfielder, and neither is Felipe. Tommy is, and so when he went out, we lost sort of that attack out of the midfield. Early on in the game, I thought Tommy was very mobile. We were just a little bit off on the final pass. But when he got hurt and had to go out, I think that hurt us up the middle of the park by not having somebody that was more of a number 10.
I love when he says that stuff. He said, I'll say it again. And it's really implying, it's meant to make you feel like an idiot. In case you weren't listening, I'll say it again. I swear to God, there's intention there.
No, you may be right. But the thing I think that frustrates me with that answer, I will say, or maybe I would assume frustrates a lot of Sporting fans, is this is not a surprise that we didn't have another number 10 on the roster. We've known for a long time, and this has been a talking point for a long time, that there's no other number 10 on the roster. And now, that's not to say Sporting hasn't tried to find a 10 to bring in. They say they're always looking, they're always trying, they're always talking to people. It could be that they had people identified and it just didn't work out. But this is where, like I talked about last week, there's Peter Vermees, the coach, and there's Peter Vermees, the technical director / general manager.
Hey. Shout out that email we got. I got that email, Brent. Thank you.
We got an email from a very long email, very good email from one of our listeners, Brent, and he actually was saying that he preferred Peter Vermees, the GM, to Peter Vermees, the coach. I might feel a little bit the opposite, but I appreciate, Brett, you taking the time, sending out your long email to us. He was talking about speculation about why Peter is or isn't going to stick around, and I don't have any information about that. But my biggest issue with this team right now is the roster is not constructed to withstand any sort of adversity, it would seem. And week after week is a new type of adversity. So if you plug one hole, it's like a sinking ship. You plug one hole and another one pops open. You can't keep plugging all of them. You only have so many fingers, and the leaks are going to keep coming, and eventually it's going to sink to the bottom. And that's what it feels like on the Sporting KC team right now.
Listen, this is normally where I'd look at upcoming opponents and be like, we have a chance here, we have a chance here. But it's like being at the bottom of the league, it's like, man, how can we steal some wins here? Like it's getting pretty desperate. All these teams we're playing are all above us. So it's time to just start making that climb, man. Start winning some games, because a few wins here and a few losses from other people, like it can go a long ways in making this an interesting season, but it's got to start now.
Sure. What I'm curious to see is, Peter said, okay, well, when Tommy went out, we lost all attack. Okay. Well, I guess he could have brought on Willie and dropped Allen back to be more of a number 10 sooner, but he didn't do that. So what's the plan then?
Yeah, so then who's attacking? What do you mean? Fix that.
Yeah, because according to Drew Vanderplug, I haven't verified this myself, but Alan Polito had one touch inside the 18 the entire game. He's the number 9. He's the striker. You can't be having one touch as the striker inside the opponent's box over an entire 90 minutes. That's unacceptable.
And was that touch the layoff, the memo for their goal?
Could be.
That's funny.
It's just this team is not able to get the ball into the box in an effective way. When Gadi Kinda and Eric Tommy were both on the field at the same time last year, when they were both available, there was some more dynamic ability through the midfield. And I think that really helped this team over the stretch, especially if one had to be out. Tommy played the majority of games, but there were times where if he couldn't be the number 10, if he had to slip back into more of an 8, Gadi Kinda could be there as number 10 attacking midfielder. Obviously, Gadi went back to Israel. There was no replacement for him. Memo came in, but that's not a like for like. I would assume that in the summer transfer window this year, number 10 is the number 1 top priority. But at that point, it's middle of July by the time you can get somebody in at the earliest. That's going to be, I doubt you're going to be able to do anything at that point if you don't start now.
I know, man. That's why I go back to saying, I hope you all invested with this Open Cup situation, because there's a real chance to get a trophy and earn Champions League admission,
Mm-hmm. For sure. Like you said, after the Sporting game, we're currently sitting in last place in the West. We're tied with San Jose with 11 points. Now, we do have a game in hand against San Jose. They've played 15 matches. We've played 14. They are technically in the position ahead of us because they've won 3 games to our 2. But, if we get a result on Wednesday, we'll at least jump up to not be in last place in the Western Conference anymore. But
sure. It's baby steps right now, man. Just get something.
The gap between Sporting Kansas City and the 9th place Seattle Sounders, who are starting to climb the ranks a little bit and get into a playoff spot, is 6 points now. Tom Bogert had put out before this week's matches that Sporting Kansas City had dropped 17 points from winning position on the season this year, and at the time that was more than any other team in the league. And at the time that he sent out that tweet, Sporting was exactly 17 points off the first place Real Salt Lake. So
pretty frustrating.
That's, I think, honestly the most frustrating part is that this team had chances and blew it early on in the season. And even though those points count just the same as the points at the end of the season do, this team is now not putting itself in chances to really blow leads as much anymore. They're not even getting to that point. So
yeah,
if you could have just even taken half of those 17 points from earlier in the season, you'd be in a playoff spot right now, and things would be much less dire. You'd be in 7th place and you'd be out of the play-in. But
yeah,
here we are. So now we got to turn ourselves to a Vancouver team, like you said, that's a decent side.
They're putting some good performances together.
If they just played Miami in Vancouver, and there was some controversy around that game because surprise, Lionel Messi and Luis Suarez didn't want to fly 7 hours to play on turf in BC Place.
Sure.
And I think that is probably to be expected, but
I'd be mad if I was a fan.
Vancouver promoted this game and they were charging crazy prices and people were spending hundreds of dollars on tickets. And this is the first time I've seen in the history of MLS where a team had to put out a statement about an opposing team not bringing players and apologizing that the opposing team was going to field a worse team and give discounts on food, etc. It was a wild situation.
If a team cared enough about getting that player there, I mean, what's it cost to returf your situation? Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you know that's coming, I mean, I don't know, man. Sporting lucked out, right? We moving the game to Arrowhead. Messi played. Mm-hmm. Messi won. How'd that Vancouver game end?
2-1 Miami.
Jeez, so they don't even need him. They don't even need him to win.
Yeah, they went up 2-0. Robert Taylor and Leo Campana scored, the first 2 goals, and then Ryan Gauld for Vancouver pulled one back, and they couldn't end up getting a second. So yeah, Vancouver lost at home to a Messi-less and a Suarez-less, and a Busquets-less Miami.
I love that. They are so good that they don't even need their best players. What a wild time, man. We're in trouble this week. If you're asking me predictions, I do not have wins in that prediction.
Why would you? Minnesota's second place. They have 25 points. Dude. They are
those games are physical.
They are. They lost one game at home. They do not have Emmanuel Reynoso, who they have not had all year long, and got crazy videos popping up on social media of him flashing guns with people with bags of money in Colombia.
What is happening there? Like, dude, someone was in an interview saying like, oh, when he's here, he's the nicest guy, blah, blah, blah. He's a great teammate. But when he goes home, he's just like a different person. I'm like, dude.
Beating up teenagers and flashing guns next to...
Does he just turn into a G when he gets home? He's just like, I'm a freaking gangster now, dude.
I don't know what's going on. I mean, there's rumors that he's being sold to a team in Liga MX, and we'll see. I don't know. I wouldn't want to mess with anything down there either, so...
Does he just not want to, like, be here? Like, is that what that is?
I mean, this is what...
He's on the team.
Second or third year in a row where he's just hasn't shown up when he's supposed to and just decided...
No call, no show. You get fired for that shit, bro.
Yeah, I mean, if I were Minnesota, I'd be like, okay, we're done. We don't need you. We're in second place without you. We're 7-2-4. We've got a +7 goal differential. Like,
let's separate from this drama.
Mm-hmm. Cut your losses, call it good, find another number 10, and you'll be fine. But
yeah, you're right. Second place, like, who's complaining, right?
Yeah. But I have a feeling that Vancouver and this is going to be a rough one. If they win one of these 2 games, I guess you could call it a success. But again, the more we do that, the more this hole is just going to continue to grow. And so Sporting's beyond the point where you can't only just win the games where reasonably you should think they would win games. They have to start stealing games on the road. They have to start beating good teams. They have to start getting results if they have any hope of climbing back into a playoff spot. But like I said, considering where we are and the roster makeup and the trajectory of this team compared to the trajectory of this team at this point last year, all hope is not lost, but it kind of feels that way. And I cannot blame the fans that I see in my mentions for feeling frustrated, feeling in a way almost gaslit of you watch a game and you're so frustrated. And then you hear the coach say, I actually think we played well. And then you're like, it almost feels like a gut punch where then you're like, okay, well then it doesn't feel like there's much hope of this turning around.
It is gaslit. I mean, if we're supposed to trust our coach, right? Like he's our coach too, as fans, like we you put your trust in him, whatever. And then everything he's saying, it's like, what did I just watch then? Like,
right.
If we're fine, then show me we're fine.
And it sucks because like I like Peter Vermes, his career is legendary.
Sure. No one can dispute that.
Already a sporting legend. I mean, he's a club icon. The club would not exist today unless he were around to to help build it the way that it has been built. It just, I'm growing increasingly concerned that this is going to end in a very unfortunate manner at some point. You'd like it to be more of a situation where, the team wins something, and he looks at it and he goes, at my age and with my family or whatnot, maybe I don't need this anymore. I transition, and then he can ride off into the sunset. It just doesn't feel like that's how this is going to go. We have yet to hear anything from ownership this year. I'm not saying that ownership needs to put out we're going to fire Vermees, we're going to do this or whatever, but there is a perception, whether real or not, this is the perception from the fan base that this ownership group is somewhat apathetic and distant. And I think it would, I said this last year, say it again this year, I think it would behoove the ownership group to acknowledge the state of the club and make some sort of public statement about what their plan is. Because
I don't know. I think they're doing a thing too where they given a lot of power and trust to and in Peter Vermees. And so it's like, why do they need to come out and say something when they've clearly established, like, this is Peter's situation. He's the front man. He needs to fix the situation. And what are they going to do by coming out? Like, I don't feel like it helps the situation at all.
I mean, I guess I would say that it at least lets the fans know that ownership is engaged and wants better. I mean, it doesn't do anything in practicality, but I know, like, if you look at college football, the University of Iowa had a very, very good defense. They were a top 10 ranked team, a playoff worthy team. Had they had a even slightly sub average offense, and they were terrible and could not score hardly ever. And the athletics department came out and said before the start of the season, if we do not score an average of 25 points per game, the offensive coordinator is going to be let go. This is our target for success. And if we do not meet this, then we're going to have to move on. They did not meet it. He got let go. So that was after years of frustration from the fan base and from the boosters and from people of saying, we have a team that should be good enough to challenge for championships. And we have this one very obvious, serious flaw in our team. And the head coach was not willing to address it because it was the head coach's son who was the offensive coordinator. So it's not a one-to-one comparison, but if there's an obvious lack of results for a team that should be better on paper and it's not happening, that's where I almost wonder at what point does ownership come out and say, this is our standard for success, and if we can't get there, then we're going to have to do something different. Manchester United is reportedly maybe even doing that right now with Erik ten Hag, their coach, even though he just won the FA Cup. They haven't been doing what they need to do in league play over the last handful of years, and so they're thinking of moving on from him. But I don't know. It's just, I don't know what the right answer is, but I think that's the frustrating thing is I don't think there is any one right answer. Every fan that you talk to, every person on Twitter will tell you, oh, it's because of this. Oh, it's because of this. Oh, it's because of this. And the truth is, it's probably because of all of it. And if at some point Peter Vermees does move on, whether by his own volition or because he gets let go, that's going to kick off a multi-year rebuild, and it's going to be a rough process. But
I mean, Peter will never leave because the fans are vocal. Like,
no,
he doesn't give a shit about what you have to say. If ownership was vocal and they were like talking some shit and it was a very unhappy environment, I could see him leaving in a heartbeat and be like, I don't need this shit. Right. But like us fans calling for his head or doing chants and stuff like that as we did last year, he didn't care about that.
I do wonder at times.
He kind of did care when he kind of called him out in that.
That's the thing. I think he hears it and he holds on to it and he'll bring it out when it behooves him.
Sure. When they win a game and he's like, oh, you all doubted me. And it's like, bro, we're still doubting you. It's one game. Like, it's getting scary, man.
I do wonder if he thinks back to when he was having conversations with U.S. Soccer, and if he would have, if he ever thinks back and goes, I wonder if I should have pushed a little harder to put my name in that ring.
That's a weird ring to be a part of, though. Like, U.S. Soccer is a whole different beast. And
you talk about weird ass fans.
Weird fans, weird hours. Like, you got to move to Chicago. It's a whole thing, man. It
might have let up on that requirement. I don't remember. I feel like in the back of my head that they finally decided you don't have to actively move to Chicago, but that was a requirement for many years, at least, if it's still not.
And we've seen turnover like crazy there. Like, you don't get a good decade to do anything with a club. like he's been with Sporting forever.
Yeah.
You know, he could potentially be there for like a year or two, and it doesn't work out, and they move on.
Yeah. I saw that there were reports that Nashville is going to hire BJ Callahan as their coach, who was the manager of the U.S. men's national team for a hot second in the interim. I forgot that he existed, and I was like, oh, yeah, I remember him. That was a fun, 7 months when he managed the U.S. men's national team.
I barely know that name. That's fun.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I think the best thing Sporting honestly could do is announce that they're going to hire they've identified and have hired a sporting director that's not Gavin Wilkinson, that does not report to Peter Vermees, that they are splitting the power and allowing for a total roster rebuild. Because if you look at the roster for this upcoming offseason, there's a lot of turnover. There's a lot of contracts that are expiring. There's a lot of options that don't have to be picked up. You could blow this thing up this offseason. Now that means you're admitting this year's a wash, but if you're going to do it, you might as well do it.
You say Nashville fired their coach this year?
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about that for a brief second. They're 11th in the East, not last place, and they fired their coach. Like, we're sitting last. At what point do we even have this discussion, though? Like, it's a real possibility that change could happen at this point.
In theory, yeah. I don't think that the ownership has shown me anything to indicate that they would likely do it.
I agree. I mean, let's text our good friend Jake Reed. Let's see what he's up to.
Well, and I will say also, Jake's probably not going to have any hand in the firing, just because he's the business guy. People who are mad at Jake for this, like there are other things you can be frustrated with him about, but he doesn't have anything to do with for me.
Sure, he's GM, right? Is that his role?
He's president.
Okay,
but it's a business thing.
Yeah.
So
you're talking illigs and stuff, and it's like,
but this is an illig thing.
Yeah,
ultimately.
Cool, man.
But I don't know. It'll be interesting. We'll see what happens Wednesday at Vancouver, Wednesday against Vancouver, Saturday at Minnesota. I don't know.
Get on out there for the media game, y'all. Jimmy might take his shirt off.
Come watch me. We'll see. I'm probably not going to score because we'll see if I can even touch the ball. If I get a couple touches on it, I'll consider it a success, because it's like a bunch of third graders running around just trying to steal the ball from each other.
You think they'll show it on Apple TV?
That'd be hilarious if they do. I don't think they will. They usually do send out a video after the fact of the media game. So, and if I somehow do anything highlight worthy, maybe we'll clip it and show it on the pod and show my skills off. But I think more likely than not, there's a much higher probability that I get embarrassed by somebody than me actually doing anything cool.
Make the highlight reel for the wrong reason.
Yeah, I think that's. Although I think it was it Garrick Dieter, the Chiefs wide receiver, I think played in it last year, the year before, that I did poke the ball away from him. So there's that.
Great job.
I'll one day I'll die and it'll be like on my tombstone, stole the soccer ball from Garrick Dieter.
Bro, hell yeah. I had an assist in Casey Current's game last year. It was a cool moment. Felt great.
I do want to play in that game this year. We haven't heard anything about that yet, but that would be fun. First game in the new stadium.
Yeah. I can't make it to this game. Otherwise I might have joined you. But I'm getting to the point where running hurts me. I'm still exercising, but like my hips I ran a marathon. I wrecked my hips. It was wild. But now I think I think I could put me in goal, and I'll just do my best, because who's expecting the goalkeeper to be any good?
Right.
If I get a save or so, then life is good.
Yeah. Hey. And nobody typically wants to play goalie, so maybe next year you
can
be the designated goalie.
Put me in. Let's do that Casey Current game. I'll get in goal.
Okay, that sounds good.
Well, you got to do goal kicks, because like I said, my hips are.
We'll do the Sporting where I'll just send it across the face of goal to the other center back, and then we'll be under pressure and probably give up a goal.
I can play it short, but I'm not the long bombs. I'm out.
Okay, that sounds good. You got anything else you want to say to our good listeners before we call it a week?
Guys, if you are in Topeka area, come see me in a play. It's Gods of Comedy. It's probably like a 2-hour show, including a 15-minute intermission, and it's funny. It's a fun night out. Topeka Civic Theater.
Go do it. Check them out. Well, thank you all so much for listening. We appreciate you. Brent, thank you for the email. Appreciate your kind words at the end. If you want to send us an email like Brent, nootherpod@gmail.com. Let us know how you're feeling. however you feel, we understand. Leave us a 5-star rating and review. Let us know how you're feeling in the review. We'll read it here on air. Send us a tweet at NoOtherPod, at Dan Kooser, at JCMax03. Find us on Instagram, same handles. Check us out on YouTube, KCSN Soccer, or via the Kansas City Sports Network app. But until next time, he's Dan, I'm Jimmy. We'll catch y'all later. See ya.
2 matches this week. Oh boy.